All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of LDCC Sports Zone. I'm Jonah. I'm here with Garrison. Today, we're going to be going over week 2 basketball, some of the different things that's happened, some of the teams that are figuring stuff out, and go over some of the details. Like last week, we'll be going over players of the week, and we have a couple of honorable mentions today, so we'll just get right into it. We forgot some of our stuff, so we're going to be going straight to paper today. Just bear with us. So for JV players of the week, for offense, this week I have Jacob Scott. In that game, then their team absolutely just dumpstered the other team. Jacob Scott led their team and everything. I don't know if it was every stat, but he was clearly the leader. He was clearly making all the decisions, and he was the guy that was just doing everything right. It seemed like he ended up when he finished the game, he had 47.4% field goal, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals, and 22 points, which is really good. Those are some great numbers. For my defensive player of the week, then I have Nathaniel Peterson. I watched that game as well. Nathaniel's a really big guy, and he moves slow, but he's deceivingly quick sometimes, which allows him to contest a lot of shots. He got a lot of good blocks, and he had a lot of rebounds, and that's what that team needed in that game. But they just couldn't get the win. But still, he had a really good performance. And those are my highlights of the week for JV.
And then for me, I've got Jacob Carlson as the offensive player of the week for JV. He shot 50% from field goal, 2 assists, and ended up with 20 points. And so 20 points is quite a bit for a JV guy, usually.
Yeah.
So I have Jacob Carlson for offense, and for my defensive player of the week, I've got Ben Peterson with 8 rebounds, a steal, and 4 blocks. I kind of have a feeling that a lot of the times then we're just gonna be giving these to whoever gets a lot of steals and blocks.
But yeah.
But if you get 4 blocks in a game, that's really good. So congratulations to them. And yeah, so some of you guys probably don't know, but some have probably heard that, like me and Jonah and some of our other friends, we play fantasy basketball through the for the LDCC leagues, and so Jacob Scott has been killing it in that league.
Yeah.
He's one of the top scorers this year, so he's had a really good first 2 weeks. So I just wanted to say that. I mean, he's been playing awesome this year.
Same with Jason Scott. I think he got me like 50 points this week.
Yeah, Jason Scott was really good also.
Yeah.
And then moving over to varsity, then I'll let John start because he
Okay.
he did the honorable mentions and stuff.
We'll go into honorable mentions after we talk about offense and defense. So for varsity, then, I mean, this isn't glazing, right? But another pick, the same pick I had last week, Ashton Kingston. He played good. Watching the game, it seemed like he took a lot of bad shots, and I told him in the game, and if you ask him, he'll probably tell you. I told him, stop forcing these shots. You're taking bad shots. Your team's going to lose, and it's going to be your fault. And he told me, it's whatever. It's my team. I'll do what I want. I was like, all right. Yeah, you can. You're the captain. And then looking at the stats after, he did really good. Shot 44%, which is good. He was 8 of 18 from field goal, 4 of 11 from 3, which is 4 of 11 is not bad, but it's not like good. It's pretty average, but I mean, he has the hardest player guarding him, so that's actually pretty good. He had 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and then 25 points on top of that. He's consistently putting up 20 plus points, and he's doing it efficiently. I can't just let that slide. I mean, there were some other players that shined out. There was another player that performed really well, and you'll talk about him a little bit later. For my defense, then I watched the game, and this guy, my defensive pick's a little bit of he doesn't really stand out. He does things just because that's what you're supposed to be doing. Like, he doesn't try to make anything look that cool on defense, I guess. It was James Stevens, and he had 6 steals, which is very impressive. 1 steal and 1 blocker equal to 4 fantasy points. So right there, that's 24 fantasy points just off of defense, that's really good. he has really quick hands with passing, dribbling, and James is he's still an underrated player. He performs really well. But 6 steals, that's really impressive. So he's my pick for defensive player of the week.
Okay, and then for my offensive player of the week, then I have Brady Jenkins. He shot 45%. He kind of struggled from 3 a little bit. It wasn't terrible, 2 of 7. So, I mean, I don't know what that percentage is off the top of my head, but it's probably like 30, which I guess that's kind of average for our league. But
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you want to see that go up. He had 4 assists, and then he had 29 points, and so I think he led at least the varsity league in scoring. I don't know about JV, but
He led varsity this week, yeah.
so 29 points. He led the league. Good job to him. And then for my defense, I've got Dylan Kingston. He won up James on the steals with 7, and I believe he also had a block and five defensive rebounds. So I mean, you can work on that, Dylan. But your team is huge, so
His team's too big.
So,
They don't have enough to
yeah,
go
you guys are
around.
stealing rebounds from each other, I guess. But yeah, 7 steals and a block. That's crazy. That's insane.
7, yeah.
6 steals for James, 7 steals for Dylan. That's insane. That's a lot of steals.
Especially for a big guy.
Yeah.
A guy that's a little bit bigger.
So those are my picks.
So for honorable mentions, I didn't tell Garrison we were doing this, but I feel like these players deserve an honorable mention just because of how well they played. First up, we got Phil Kingston. Shout out to him. I'm sure he's going to be talking to me about this after, but he deserves it. He shot 5 of 9 from 3, and their team was down by like 15 points at the end of the game with like 3 or 4 minutes left. Made a couple threes, brought him right back into the game, and they wouldn't have been able to get back in the game without him. He played really good. Great job. Next one is Garrett Jenkins. He's on my team, and he shot 83% field goal and scored 15 points, second most on my team, right behind me. I scored 18. I should have gave Garrett the ball more, and that game wouldn't have been as close as it was. But Garrett played really good defense and great offense, and you could tell in that game that if Garrett wasn't there, if it would have been anybody else, just the way he was running things, then we would have lost. So Garrett helped us win that game. Honorable mention to him. And the honorable mentions are kind of just players that stand out that aren't players of the week for offense or defense. They're just players that we feel like deserve recognition, and I'm sure Garrison would agree on Phil. And it's not just because they're players from our team, but they performed really well, so I feel like they deserve an honorable mention.
Yeah, and it's kind of like somebody who, like, he's not gonna put up 20 plus points usually, but I mean, being able to shoot 55% from 3 and with 17 points, it's like, yeah, we had a couple players that outscored them, but 55% from 3, that's kind of like really good.
That was really good.
So, and then the same thing with Garrett, 83% field goal. So like they only got 17 and 15 points, but they did it on really good efficiency, and so they're not necessarily going to get the offensive player of the week for their performance, but we still want to recognize how well they played, and I mean I'm assuming kept their team in the game pretty well. Both of them played in 1-point games, and so
yeah,
definitely would have been a little bit different without either of them.
All right, so next up, we're going to talk about game 1. This is the game we had Garrison, not your captain's Ortel versus Ashton. That was a 1-point game. I believe you have some of the stats there. I'll let you talk about it, and I'll give my thoughts after.
Yeah, so I believe now. So I started the year out 3-3 on my picks. I think I might have missed 2 of them this week. So I don't remember for sure if I had you or Zach winning.
I think you had me winning because Ren was missing.
Okay.
So I remember, and we'll do a recap after week 4 because we're halfway through the season, and we'll have a longer video and go into all that.
Yeah. So I did miss this game though. I had Ortel winning. That didn't happen. Ortel lost by 1 point. Ortel was my team. So to start with that game, I think that we can kind of just talk about what kind of went right, what didn't. So to start with my team, then we got off to a pretty slow start, and so after the first week, in the video, then I talked about how I was proud of my team. We got off to a super quick killer start, and for the second week, then it was kind of the exact opposite. We didn't go down like 17-0 or whatever it was the first week that we went up, but it was really slow first little bit. They got up pretty big on us, and then they kind of were able to just hold on to the lead throughout the most of the rest of the game. Obviously, I have to be better. I shot 26%. I shot 34 times.
Third time. How many field goals did your team have that game?
71. And so I shot about half of them. I only made 9 of them, and so I need to be better there. And I mean, first of all, I probably shouldn't be shooting 34. I should probably try to keep it under at like 25, I would say. But I also have to be hitting more than 9 shots a game, especially if I'm going to be taking that many. I think I made 9 the first game, but I only shot like 15. So I think that's okay. But if I'm going to be shooting 34, I have to be better. Shot 5 of 15 from 2, 4 of 19 from 3. So, I mean, the 3 just wasn't falling, but I think everybody probably knows at this point, even if my 3's not falling, I'm not going to stop shooting. All it takes is watching one shot go in, and all of a sudden, then you just got it back, So,
yeah.
So, I mean, for any of you guys who didn't know, I guess, then just because I'm not hitting shots doesn't mean I'm going to get scared and turn away from shooting. I'll keep going all night. But obviously, that needs to come up. The 2s, I don't know what happened with those. I don't remember shooting 15. I remember shooting a ton of 3s. 15 2s though, that, I mean, it probably happened, but I don't remember shooting that many. So 15 or 5 of 15, that's 33%. So obviously I have to be better there. I want to be up in like the 60 or 70 range on my 2s. And then James struggled, shot 25% on the day, 4 of 16. He didn't hit a 3. So it was just an off night for us, I guess. And I guess I can say with my team, I am proud of the fact that it was only a 1-point game when they were shooting lights out in the first half and we couldn't hit a shot all night.
Yeah.
And so for anybody who watched Ashton's team, you can go back and look at the stats, and they cooled off quite a bit in the second half. But in the first half, when they built their big lead, then they were just, I mean, there wasn't anything we could do about it. They would come off a screen and the shot would go up, and it's like something that looks like a terrible shot, and it was just going in. Ashton made a half-court shot at the end of the quarter.
That too.
Just things like that. They had a lot of shots that just fell their way, I guess, and I mean, all it takes is one to not go in, and then it's a full new game, But
Yep.
It is what it is. So, moving on over to Ashton's team. They did, like I said, played really well. Brayson could have shot better, but 35% is all right, I guess.
10 of 28, right?
10 of 28. So
Brayson
Brayson was kind of doing the same thing I was. He wasn't really hitting, but he was just shooting. He did shoot a little better percentage than I did, but Ashton is the one who kept him in the game. 8 of 18, shot 44%, had 25 points. Ashton is the real first round pick on that team, I think. They made him pick himself second, which I didn't agree with in the first place. And he's an MVP finalist last year, and so that right there should tell you he should be a first rounder. But Yeah, Ashton, I think, is going to lead that team all year. Brayson, he's a nice number 2 as long as he's hitting his shots, but he just needs to make sure he's hitting. Something that these guys should work on, though, there's actually a couple things. Um, these guys were up by 13 points with 2 minutes left in the game. I don't know how many people knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know if I didn't focus 3 minutes or 2 minutes because I was kind of dribbling the ball, messing around, and then look at it. Oh, this game's over. Hear people cheering. What's going on? And then Phil makes it 3, gets a steal, makes another 3, and then just like that, you're back in the game.
Yeah, and so they were up 13 with 2 minutes to go. Okay, and so to walk through that last 2 minutes, it was the longest 2 minutes you ever see in a game. But so you have so they actually had possession of the ball at 2 minutes also. So they come down, they miss their shot. We get the ball. Phil goes down, knocks down a 3. They miss again. Phil knocks down another 3 that's even deeper. And then
didn't you get the steal, and then
got a
James had
steal.
that one, I believe.
Yeah, so James stole the ball from Ashton. Ashton seemed a little frustrated that he didn't get the foul call, went down and fouled James on the layup. That was an and one. And so that was 3 3-point plays that happened all within like 20 or 30 seconds. Put us right back in the game. But I mean, even though, like, I look back at the 2 minutes and there was even some calls that even could have went the other way, and that would have helped our case even more. So the calls in the last 2 minutes, they're going Ashton's team's way for the most part, and this isn't a knock at the refs. Like, don't take this the wrong way. If you want to cry about it, then go ahead, I guess. But I'm not saying the refs did a bad job with this, but I think that there was a couple calls that could have gone either way, and all of them just happened to go Ashton's team's way. And one of those calls goes a different way, and something different could have happened,
It's two free throws. It could have split, could have tied, could have won.
Yeah, and so there's a play where I missed a fast break layup. James got the rebound, and me and him both, at this point, James gets the rebound and tries again for a layup, and he gets slapped on the arm. And this one seemed pretty noticeable to me, but that we didn't get the call. I think we might have ended up scoring. I think that might have been Phil's second deep 3, and so maybe it worked out for the best anyway. We had the Ortel timeout where he got a steal. He was falling out of bounds, called timeout, and then the refs said that he didn't have possession of the ball, which, from my angle, I mean, you'd have to go back and look at the rules, but from what I understand, as long as you have possession, you can call a timeout as you're falling out of bounds, right?
But I think he jumped out of bounds, so his feet weren't in play. I think he caught it and then he dove.
So he landed, and I know that I'm right on this. So he landed, and as he was falling out, he called timeout, but at the same time he was calling timeout, he tried to do the signal for it instead of just yelling it. And so he was dropping the ball as he was calling it and falling out of bounds. And so it's like something that, I mean, he obviously had possession, and yes, he did let go of the ball, but I think he said timeout first. From my angle, anyway. I mean,
I didn't know. That's what the refs were discussing.
You go back and watch the video, I guess. But so from what I saw, then I think that we should have been awarded the timeout, but they ended up doing a jump ball. Anybody can jump. I out-jumped Brayson, but Cal ended up with the ball. Fouled him. I think Ashton ended up going to the line. But I think we came down and we scored again. I hit 2 free throws after Ashton had his free throws. Austin gets sent to the line. He misses his second one. James goes for the rebound and slaps the ball out of bounds with his left hand.
That's right.
Brayson's kind of on his back. I mean, Some people say he got hit on the arm. The refs obviously couldn't. They didn't see anything enough to overturn it. We did challenge that call, so um, yeah, just a few little things where if a little bit more could have went our way and it could have been a whole new game, but that's just how it played out, I guess. Um, and then even to end that game, we were so they got the ball back. We fouled. Cal splits his free throws, so now we're down 4. I go down, hit the super deep 3, 0.5 seconds left, and we even stole the ball back with the 0.5 at around half court, and we just had to heave it up. And even that one, I mean, there was some contact with Austin against Ortel, and that could have, I mean, a lot of things could have went a different way, but we did end up losing. But anyway, so now getting to my point, Ashton's team was up with 2 minutes left. They're up 13 points, and they let my team come all the way back to within 1, and we had the last shot of the game, and we just missed it. Make that shot, and we actually win the game. And so Ashton's team, they need to figure out how to close a game out. So getting towards the end of that game, then they ran the clock for I think it was around the 3-4 minute mark, and they started trying to run the clock. They did that for 2 possessions, and then they just got all scared or something, where they just started trying to shoot right when they got the ball. Like they couldn't run the clock anymore, and it was as soon as we started putting pressure on them, and they just got super sloppy. And so something that they need to work on is making sure that they can keep their composure. They're all a bunch of young kids. They need to keep their composure and be able to close a game out, because 13 points blown in a matter of 2 minutes that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's how that game ended up going. Yeah, I think another thing Ashton's team can work on, and this isn't a knock on Ashton's team. It's something that I honestly want to see them get better at, is the way that they hold themselves during a game. And so it's like, if you want a team or a player to respect you, then you need to be respectable while you're playing the game, right? And so their team, they got a bunch of young kids on, and they're all coming up they're good players, and so they all think that they're running the league now. And so something I honestly think that they should work on, just to hold respect with the other teams, because I've heard from multiple people that there's no respect there for Ashton's team, and it's because they run their mouth all game. They whine about the calls or the no calls, and I mean, I just got to experience it firsthand. And honestly, I think my team whined about calls more than we usually would too in this game. But if it's not going their way, then they instantly start trying to blame somebody else, And so they need to fix that, because once playoff time comes around, if they make the playoffs,
it's 1 game elimination.
You think anybody's gonna care that you're sitting on the court pouting that someone didn't call a foul?
Yeah.
No, you just got to get it out of your head. That was a frustrating game for me to play in, and but I think that I've kind of learned. So I was kind of the same way back in the day, but I kind of learned how to let it all out, or to keep it out of my head and just finish the game out. So I think that's something that they should also work on. Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons you guys were able to come back, is because one player starts, then everybody else starts. And I've experienced it on almost every team I've been on, because I'm kind of the one to start it, and I've been improving a ton over the years. But once one person starts, another player's like, yeah, he's right. Another player's like, yeah. And then once you get in your head that it's not basketball anymore, that's when you lose the game. And I'd say it's more in your head than it is as far as your skill. Skill does play a factor, but if it's in your head that you're going to miss a shot when you shoot, you're going to miss it before you shoot it. That's why when you were saying, I'm going to keep shooting even though I keep missing, it's how you think about it. Because the more you miss, then you have a higher chance of making the next one because you already missed so many.
Mm-hmm.
Like statistics say, you're bound to make the next one.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for every team. Just when you complain, then it's no longer about basketball. It's got to be about basketball. And that's one thing. One of the funnest games I played and was playing your team in the championship last year. That was just a fun basketball game, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
A lot of fun.
So I pretty much agree with everything you said. A lot of detail in there. I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to go into everything else, but we'll try to cover a little bit more because Brady's team just totally. I shouldn't say dumpstered, but they dumpstered Mason's team. But one thing I do want to show, I have those stats right here. So if you look at Mason's game, this is second game, by the way, then Mason's team goes into halftime winning. They go into halftime and they're winning by 3. And so, this is when Brady's team has Danny, and that team's really tall. Mason's team executed really good on letting them not get as many offensive rebounds, even though they have such a tall team. And they had Abel back. He warmed up. He played good for him in those first 2 quarters, and then he got hurt in the third quarter. And then after that, in the third quarter, Dylan's team scored 20 points, and Mason's team scored 5. And then in the fourth, Dylan's team scored 10, and Mason's team scored 4. And I feel like Abel getting hurt because he was a problem in that first quarter. He's making a couple shots. He's making big plays that is helping his team, building the momentum. And then he gets hurt. And then when he gets hurt, then the other team kind of, it's like a weight off their shoulder. Okay, now we can try to finish this game. Troy's team had to answer, and they just couldn't answer back. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that Mason's team hasn't been at 100% for any of their games yet. But I feel like that's one of the main reasons they lost that game. If you disagree, you can let me know. But
no, I think that they, I was reffing that game, and I specifically remember, Brady got into foul trouble real quick in that game. I think he had 2 fouls within the first couple minutes. And I think I might have been able to call both of them. I for sure called at least one of them. But something that you have to do, and it was the same thing with my game, and we didn't do it. We didn't execute it. When you have the other team's best player getting 3 fouls within the first quarter, at that point, if I'm Troy, I attack Brady. Like, I don't care what. You have to find a way for Brady to get switched on to you, especially because he has 3 fouls because he's playing sloppy and a little bit lazy defense, right? Mm-hmm. And so at that point, Troy attacks Brady, and it's either you get him to foul you again, or he's playing with his hands behind his back and you get wide open layups. Once people get into foul trouble, then they all hesitate to play defense again, right? And I don't remember for sure. Brady probably switched off to somebody who wasn't demanding as much attention, And so I think for that, Brady had 3 quick fouls. I think they need to just start attacking that. And it didn't look like that's what they did. How many fouls did Brady end up with?
Brady ended up with 4 fouls. So he had 2 people. Ephraim had 4 fouls as well throughout that game.
And so I think, as soon as Abel went out, then they started more resorting to the 3. And it's understandable because Abel was one of your higher picks, and Dylan's team is so tall, and these guys, Mason doesn't have a lot of height. And so it is understandable, but you have to start attacking that. Once you see that he's got 3 fouls, because Brady's fouls were dumb. He fouled James O'Brien because he tried to get his hand on the ball, and James turned, and his arm just went into James's head. It's like if he would have just taken his hand off the ball, then that never would have happened. But as soon as his arm and elbow goes into James's head, yeah, it's a foul. And I'm the one who called it, and I don't think Brady agreed with me on the call, but he just had dumb fouls to start, and if the other team's best player is gonna do that to me to start and just have 3 quick fouls, absolutely I'm gonna attack him. So
Yeah. Yeah. All in all, I want to see Mason's team if with a whole healthy team play a full game.
that was by 18.
Yeah, but I mean, 20 points in a quarter versus 5 is that's huge.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it was Abel's defense too that was helping him out a ton. I mean, I'm sure it was, but it just sucks that he got hurt. So,
Yeah. And Dylan's team doesn't shoot well from 3. I think that so 4 of 22, 18%.
well, week 1 they shot 13.8%.
Yeah, so they're not a good 3-point shooting team, and I think people can use that to their advantage, but they don't like understand how to, I guess. Like they're a big team, and obviously you can't leave Ephraim open, but
Yeah.
they have so many big guys that the way you beat them is by the 3, and that's what my team did in the first week. We beat them off the 3, so. But anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, we can talk about them later. I think we're gonna go a little. This is gonna be the longest video probably. So going into the third game, I'll give my thoughts on this game. I don't believe you watched it, but you watched some of it. But so this game we went in. Zach's team didn't have Rand, and I feel like my team kind of relaxed a little bit once we found that out. And then we moved the ball pretty good in the first quarter. We just didn't make a couple shots. And then Garrett, we had a timeout. Garrett came in, started making plays, started doing everything right. And then they subbed Larson in the game. We tried to set a screen to get Larson to guard me. I had a couple contested shots going to the basket, made a couple, missed a couple. And then throughout the game, they started putting more pressure on me. I kept turning the ball over, taking bad shots, not passing the ball. And I almost threw that game away. That was a rough game for me. I played really bad. But thankfully, Dylan Reynolds, he had a layup at the very end. He hit 2 free throws at the end.
I did say that.
That helped us out a ton. Garrett shooting 83%, honorable mention, helped out a ton. And just him distributing the ball. And it's nice, I mean, because I'm still kind of a young guy. I mean, it's like kind of. And a lot of people around you, especially Garrett, since he's a little bit older, he sees a lot of the things. And he helps out a ton in the game. He doesn't even have to score. Like last game, he didn't even make a basket, and he was one of the reasons we won too. Just because of how he helps players, tells players where to be, just his IQ, that helped out a lot. But I mean, I shouldn't say my team played so bad. That's why Zach's team was close. Zach's team played really well. I went into that game. I was guarding Ben Scott. I was letting him shoot a little bit because I didn't think he could replicate what he did last week. He did end up shooting pretty bad, which I'm not going to take credit for that because I kind of let him.
He shot terrible.
Yeah, he shot terrible.
That was a bad game.
But Zach and Jared, Zach came into that game with a game plan, and I feel like they executed it really well as far as getting people shots. And Zach hit a lot of shots, but in the end, then it just wasn't enough.
So, if Ren plays that game, do you think it ends differently?
If Ren plays that game, then I think
obviously the whole game is different at that point.
I think Zach's team would win, and I'd put a lot of money on it. Just because he's just bigger. He's bigger. He helps them move the ball as well, but they wouldn't have moved the ball as good as they did that game if Ren was there, just because he would take a lot of the shots. Like the ball will be moving, and once it hits him, it stops and the shot's going up. With them, every time the ball was moved, you were kind of thinking he's going to pass this, he's going to shoot it. With Ren, a lot of the times, you just want, since he's the best guy on that team, you're kind of just like, I don't care if he passes this. I just don't want him to shoot this. Anybody else can shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
And with that team, you have to do both when he wasn't there, which they played really well.
Yeah, it does. When Ren isn't there, then it does seem like they don't have a true number one.
But I mean, for this game,
Zach was the number one. He had 17 points, shooting 46%, and some would probably expect that would go to Jared when Ren isn't there, but it looks like Zach decided to take over in that game. Obviously, they didn't get as much production out of their probably mainly Ben Scott as they did in the first game.
I mean,
Ben
he
Scott
took a lot of shots though.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so he's shooting 1 of 11. He gives you a little bit better game, and maybe it swings it,
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I think Zach's team, they need to get more production out of Jared, I think. He was a high pick. He shot 7 times and only made 3 of them. And like I said last week, they got to keep him off the 3. He shoots well for
How many
for
threes did he
Monday,
take?
but he was 1 of 3.
1 of
It's not
3.
terrible, but I mean, I think they have a better odds keeping him off the 3.
And another thing I thought was interesting is if you look at field goal attempts, then Zach's team took 45 and my team took 47.
48.
I mean, 48, 48. But in your guys' game against Brady's team is averaging like 70 field goals a game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just off of missing rebounds and getting the ball back,
It is
or
when
it just
have a
if
lot
you
of
guys play a
offensive.
lot more fast paced. But my team and Zach's team this game, we just didn't take a lot of shots.
Yeah, and it does have to do with the pace of the game, and offensive rebounds, I think. Brady or Dylan's team, they play really quick, and they ended up shooting 70 again. My team,
Which is a lot.
so they had 17 offensive boards, which that's a lot.
That's
My
less than
team
27.
shot 71 field goal attempts with 16 offensive boards. And so the offensive boards helps at the pace of the game. So, I mean, it seems to me like you guys probably just kind of slowed everything down. And it makes sense for your team. Your team's not really a team that's going to get out and outrun another team. So you guys kind of need to control the pace yourselves and make sure that the other teams can't start controlling and playing fast pace.
Yeah, and I think one of the main reasons is Jared was down low, and every time a shot gets up, he's big, gets the rebound, no other shots after that. And on our team, then me and Joey do a really good job of making sure they don't get any extra second shot attempts.
Yeah, you guys have 4 offensive, or no, Zach's team had 4 offensive, and you guys had 8. And so, yeah, I do think looking at both teams, it's teams that aren't going to get out and start running you to death. Neither of these, you or Zach.
Yeah.
And so, it does make sense why there's so many less field goal attempts. But I think that part of the or I think when you play a little bit slower, you get better shot. Your looks are better, Your shots, you get more higher percentage shots when you're playing a little bit slower pace.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing either way. It's just if you are a slow playing team and you're playing a fast paced team, you have to be the one that sets the pace of the game, because if you let them set it, you're going to get outran. And so I think my team plays with pretty quick pace, and we played Ashton, who played really quick pace.
They
And so
play fast, yeah.
we both put up a bunch of shots that game, but we didn't really outscore you guys. Final score of that game was 62-63 versus 52-51,
Yeah,
so 10
52-51.
points. But anyway, yeah. I also think you guys got to get Lucas going. He didn't shoot this bad in the first week, I don't think, but 2 of 11.
Well,
I think he needs to just. I don't know. So both of your guys' games, I don't think I've watched,
that's okay.
but yeah, I think he needs to start just shooting at a better percentage. Honestly, if you guys are gonna continue to win games, you guys are 2-0 right now. You're the only 2-0 team.
Barely. Honestly, this game does not feel like a win. I think Zach's team feels like a win because they're like, we almost beat this team without Ren. We played great. They're like, they have all the confidence right now. after that game I look at it and it's just like I can't sit there and wallow in it too much. It's just a learning experience. Play each game, try to improve the next one. That's just what I'm gonna try to do. I single-handedly almost threw that game away. If you watch the film, you'll see. But yeah, it's just it is what it is. Just gotta move on to next week and try to play better.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's 2 super close games, 1 blowout. One thing I will say about the end of your guys' game, that was very poorly executed by Zach's team.
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but you can, I guess.
So like you said, Dylan's hitting the big shots at the end. They end up being down 3 points with like 2 seconds left, and I know for a fact that this was not their play design, but their play ends up being a pass to a wide open Jared down under the hoop, and I don't know if they like didn't know what the score was or what. So they're down 3. Jared gets a wide open layup and then he starts celebrating, and so it was a weird situation. They obviously ended up losing by 1. I honestly think maybe some of their team, they just weren't on the same page with the score, but that was something that should have been executed way better. And I know that Zach and Ren, I know they both knew that they were down 3 because I went back and watched the video, and both of them after the inbound went to Jared, then they both had their hands up like, what are you guys doing?
What are we doing?
And so, yeah, that could have been executed better for sure. But
yeah, even the play right before that, when my team brings the ball down, there's a 2-second difference between the shot clock and the game clock. As soon as I caught that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go over here to my spot and I'm just gonna make a 2 and the game's over. That's what I was thinking.
mm-hmm.
And then after I miss it, they call timeout and I'm like, okay, we just gotta play defense. And then Garrett's like, what are we doing? I'm like, wait, what do you mean? If you make the next game, he's like, yeah, but now we gave them this much time, we're only down, and they're only up by this much. If we hold it, they have 2 seconds instead of all this other time.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was going through my head. Nothing. I wasn't thinking right. I was like, I'm so sorry, dude. He's like, don't worry about it. Let's play some defense. We are gonna win this game. And yeah, that was definitely a low moment for me, man. Thinking about that. You gotta be kidding me right after, man. But all in all, it was fun. It's good. I play Dylan's team next week. Who do you play next week?
We have Mason next week.
Hopefully they can stay healthy.
I do hope.
A good game.
I do want it to be a good, fair fight, so I do hope. Obviously I'm hoping for a win too, but I do hope they're healthy. I don't really like winning without, a full team that you're playing against. Like, it doesn't really feel good to win a game when their players are out or hurt or whatever. So
yeah. Well, that's all we have for next week. We have 44 minutes. That's got to be a long. Anyways, see you guys next time. We'll recap week 3.